You see, not all fat is created equal. While some clings lovingly to your hips and thighs like an old friend who refuses to leave, belly fat has a different agenda. And it's not one you want to RSVP to. Unlike those love handles that just make jeans a bit tighter, fat around the waist is more like a toxic tenant. It releases substances that can stir up serious health drama, like inflammation, insulin resistance, and even heart disease. Yes, that belly bulge could be plotting against you behind your back. Or, more accurately, right in front of it. Here's the scoop. About 90% of your body fat is subcutaneous, the kind you can poke and jiggle. Harmless? Not exactly, but it's mostly cosmetic. Then there's the remaining 10%, the troublemaker, visceral fat. This stuff hides deep inside your abdomen, snuggling up to your liver, intestines, and other VIP organs like it pays rent. Spoiler, it doesn't. And here's where it gets even juicier, or should I say thicker. That apron-like layer called the omentum, it stores visceral fat like a suitcase full of problems. The more it stores, the harder and thicker it gets. It's like body armor, but the kind you don't want. Now, why should you care? Because belly fat isn't just about how your jeans fit, it's about how your heart works, how your liver processes sugars, and how your hormones behave. Think of it as the loud guest at a quiet dinner party. It messes everything up. Especially for women, as we age, yes, even gracefully, fat decides to go north. Even if the scale stays steady, your waistline might start its own expansion plan. That's visceral fat pushing out, demanding attention like an uninvited relative at Thanksgiving. So if you're ready to say no more belly fat, don't just think crunches and kale. Think science, smart habits, and a bit of sass. Your body and your organs will thank you later. Where's the fat hiding? Spoiler alert, it's not just hanging out where you can pinch it. When we talk about belly fat, we're talking about two very different beasts. First, there's subcutaneous fat. That's the squishy stuff just beneath your skin. You can poke it, grab it, and blame it for how your jeans fit. It's annoying, sure, but mostly just a surface-level issue. But then there's visceral fat, and this one doesn't play nice. It hides deep inside your abdomen, lurking between your organs like a sneaky little villain. It even cozies up in a flap of tissue called the omentum. Think of it as your belly's inner storage closet. And unfortunately, visceral fat doesn't just sit quietly. It's the kind that messes with your hormones, stirs up inflammation, and increases your risk for serious health problems. So if you're thinking, I want no more belly fat, it's visceral fat you really want to kick out of the party. Because it's not just about looking good, it's about keeping your inside from turning into a metabolic mess. The real trouble with visceral fat. Once upon a time, fat was thought to be just a lazy energy storage unit, a couch potato of the body, just sitting there, quietly waiting for your next juice cleanse to call into action. But science had a plot twist. Visceral fat isn't passive, it's powerful. In fact, it's biologically active. We're talking about fat with ambition. It's like that one coworker who not only shows up early, but also stirs up drama in every department. Since the mid-1990s, researchers have realized that fat, especially visceral fat, is actually an endocrine organ, meaning it secretes hormones and chemical messengers that affect your entire body. Yep, your belly fat is out here making executive decisions without your approval. Before this revelation, the biggest worry was that visceral fat dumped fatty acids into your bloodstream, messing with cholesterol and liver function. But that was just the tip of the iceberg lettuce. Now we know that visceral fat is a chemical factory, pumping out substances like cytokines, the not-so-friendly proteins that fan the flames of low-level inflammation, the kind linked to heart disease, diabetes, and a whole list of fun chronic conditions. It also cranks out precursors to angiotensin, a protein that tightens your blood vessels like a vice grip, raising your blood pressure in the process. Meanwhile, subcutaneous fat, the jiggly stuff you can pinch, is the nice guy. It actually produces more helpful molecules that aren't out to wreck your health. So, if you're serious about your health, and not just your beach body, it's time to say, no more belly fat. Because this stuff isn't just sitting around, it's scheming. Gut check, the no gimmicks way to spot visceral fat. Forget fancy scanners and sci-fi gadgets. Your best tool, for checking visceral fat at home is a tape measure. Yep, the same one in your junk drawer next to 5 pairs of scissors and a mystery battery. But before you go cinching your waist like it's prom night, here's how to do it right. Step 1. Find your navel. That's your measuring landmark, not the narrowest part of your waist. The tape should wrap around level with the top of your right hip bone, the ilium, if you're feeling fancy, right where it lines up with a vertical line dropped from the center of your armpit. Pro tip, don't hold your breath, suck in, or pull the tape so tight that you cut off circulation. We're measuring belly fat, not winning a waistline contest. So what's the magic number? For women, a waist circumference of 35 inches or more often signals an unhealthy amount of visceral fat. But hold up, that number isn't one size fits all. If you're tall or have a larger frame, it may not mean the same thing. Instead of obsessing over a single number, keep tabs on the trend. Are your jeans quietly plotting a mutiny? Is your waistband now your worst enemy? If so, that creeping waistline could mean your belly fat is staging a comeback, and not the good kind. Bottom line, if you're aiming for better health, not just a smaller size, keep an eye on your waist. Because the road to no more belly fat starts with a good old-fashioned gut check. From fat to fallout, how visceral fat turns into disease. So, how do you actually measure this sneaky fat that's tucked deep in your belly, like it's hiding state secrets? The gold standard methods? CT scans and full-body MRIs. Super precise, super expensive, super unlikely to be casually hanging out at your local pharmacy. That's why researchers usually go with something a little more budget-friendly, like waist circumference or your waist-to-height ratio. Refer back to our gut check segment if you missed it. And just to make sure, they're not simply measuring overall body size. They'll often compare your waist size to your BMI. If your belly is larger than average for your BMI, it's a red flag waving from the depths of your torso. But here's where things get serious. Visceral fat isn't just squatting in your belly rent-free. It's actively sabotaging your health. It's been linked to a host of chronic conditions, including, but not limited to, heart disease. Your ticker really doesn't like cytokine-filled fat hanging out nearby. Type 2 diabetes. Visceral fat is a known troublemaker when it comes to insulin resistance. High blood pressure. Thanks to those nasty compounds it produces, your blood vessels tighten up like rush hour traffic. Certain cancers. Yep, visceral fat has even been associated with increased cancer risk, especially in the colon and breast. Dementia. Researchers have found connections between belly fat and brain shrinkage. Yes, that kind of shrinkage. The takeaway? No more belly fat isn't just a slogan for beach season. It's a long-term investment in your organs, your brain, and your quality of life. From belly fat to big problems, what the science says. Still think belly fat is just a fashion emergency? Think again. Visceral fat doesn't just sit there quietly under your waistband. It actively raises your risk for a whole buffet of serious diseases. Let's break it down. Cardiovascular disease, the heartbreaker. Turns out belly fat is downright heartless. One major study of European women aged 45 to 79 found that those with the largest waists, or the biggest waist-to-hip ratios, were more than twice as likely to develop heart disease. That's after adjusting for blood pressure, cholesterol, smoking, and BMI. In fact, even healthy, non-smoking women weren't safe. Every extra 2 inches of waistline upped their heart disease risk by 10%. But wait, there's more. Visceral fat is linked to high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, aka the good stuff. Put them together, and you've got metabolic syndrome, the red carpet leading straight to heart disease and type 2 diabetes. Dementia, a shrinking brain and a growing waist. Kaiser Permanente researchers found that people in their 40s with the most belly fat were nearly 3 times more likely to develop dementia. Yes, even Alzheimer's, by the time they hit their 70s or 80s. And here's the kicker. This had nothing to do with thigh size. So no, leg day won't cancel out a bloated belly. Asthma, breathless from the waistline. In a large study of California teachers, women with waistlines over 35 inches were 37% more likely to develop asthma, even if their weight was otherwise normal. The risk jumped even higher for women who were both overweight and had large waists. Why? Because visceral fat stirs up inflammation everywhere, including your lungs. Breast cancer, a hidden hormonal threat. In both premenopausal and postmenopausal women, larger waists have been linked to a higher risk of breast cancer. While BMI complicates the picture in older women, the takeaway is clear: abdominal obesity matters, especially when it comes to hormone-sensitive cancers. Colorectal cancer, gut feeling confirmed. People with the most visceral fat had 3 times the risk of developing colorectal adenomas, those pesky precancerous polyps. Even after controlling for other factors, the connection stuck. Researchers believe insulin resistance, driven by visceral fat, plays a key role here. So what's the bottom line? If you've ever said, "I just want no more belly fat," know that it's not just about looking good. It's about staying alive and well. This stubborn fat doesn't just sit there. It's like a troublemaker with access to every room in the building. Your waistline could be telling the future of your health, and it's up to you to rewrite the story. How to lose and outsmart visceral belly fat. You can't pick your parents, pause menopause, or rewind your birth weight, but you can fight back against belly fat like a total boss. Where your body stores fat depends on a mix of genetics, hormones, age, and life events. Shout out to all the moms. Yep, childbirth shifts fat storage too. Early on, women tend to have less visceral fat than men, but after menopause, that advantage packs up and leaves. But here's the silver lining. Visceral fat is actually easier to lose than that stubborn hip or thigh fat. Why? Because it's more metabolically active, meaning it's the first to go when you kick into fat-burning mode. So, how do you show at the door and say no more belly fat? 1. Keep moving like your life depends on it, because it kind of does. You don't have to become a marathon runner, but consistent movement is your secret weapon. Aim for at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity activity most days. Think brisk walking, casual cycling, or dancing like no one's watching, because they aren't. You're in your living room. The best part? Even if the scale doesn't budge, you can shrink your visceral fat and gain lean muscle. That's a win-win you can't see on the scale. Bonus moves, sneaky everyday hacks. Park farther away and walk the rest. Your car won't mind. Take the stairs, yes, even if the elevator gives you side-eye. Stand while talking on the phone or scrolling through texts. Do a little dance while brushing your teeth. 2 birds, 1 groove. These micro-movements add up. Remember, motion is lotion for your metabolism. Want more tips? Coming up next, food hacks, stress-busting tricks, and sleep habits that help flatten that belly from the inside out. Because this isn't just a glow-up for summer. It's a long-term declaration. No, more belly fat.